Hey guys, Free here. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to do a really quick demo of a very interesting project, at least I think, that helps organizations or teams generate synthetic data to use for the analytical processes. Now, when we talk about data analytics, we talk about machine learning, we talk about AI, or we talk about generative AI, one of the common things that you end up needing is data to actually build those machine learning models, or data to train the models, or data to run your analytical queries. Well, for organizations that already have data sitting in their database, like Snowflake, it's pretty easy to use your data to do any analysis you want. But if you are developing, or if you are still in the trial process and you want synthetic data, you don't always have that luxury of having your customer database that you can, in this case, I'm looking at the sample data that you can use to do your analysis. And so, what a lot of companies are doing or individuals are doing is they have to resort to synthetic data and data that looks like real data, but of course it's not real data. So you can do your analysis, you can develop, you can have data that looks like customer, or data that looks like orders, or data that looks like suppliers, and you can use that. But the problem of getting data is not a trivial one. This is a very relevant blog post. I've shared this before. You can read. There are different ways that you can generate sample data using Python and using some coding to generate, let's say, customer data, and you want email addresses, right? Email addresses has to be in a specific format. So you can't just, put a bunch of strings and consider that an email address. It wouldn't be relevant. And especially when we talk about AI or machine learning or data science or just any relevant analytics, you want data that looks like real data, but it's not real data. So you want data that maintains the analytical value. And so this is an interesting blog post to show how you can generate sample data, in this case in Snowflake, using just pure functions. So in this example, I can come in and generate, let's just copy this, generate 10 rows of 2 columns. But the problem I don't like this is, number one, this is just random number generation. Number two, it doesn't look like emails. If I want email addresses, this would be a little bit more involved to get that result. So this is one of the challenge. If you just want volume, sure, this would be relevant. If you just want, a huge volume of data, this would be relevant. But if you want it to be analytically significant, this might not might not be the solution that you use. So what then is a solution? And this is where I'm going to show you really quick a solution that you can leverage as an option. So we're going to leverage StarSnow, which helps you invoke APIs from within Snowflake. So if you're not familiar with StarSnow, I've made a video about it. Check out in my channel. You can get up starting with StarSnow. And the beauty about this is we're going to invoke APIs that can generate synthetic data for us from within Snowflake. So get started with StarSnow. That's the first piece. The second piece is we're going to leverage this tool called Mockaroo, right? Mock data. So Mockaroo, it's a very powerful tool. I've done demos around this, but every day they seem to be improving, and that's what's very impressive to me. So in Mockaroo, you can come in, define attributes that you want, define and call it data set. So you can say, hey, I want customer first name, and they have this whole library of semantic types that you can pick from, like zip code and image and encryption and fake company names, file names, gender. So it's huge. It's very relevant. Now, once you define the attributes with the different semantic types that you want, right? You can go in, and I want to show you what's really relevant here. You can go in and also put in functions in terms of how much of this do you want to be null values, how much of this do you want to be a specific value, how much of it do you want to be. So if I want 2% to be null values, so you can check for data quality, you can do that. If you want to include a certain function to generate certain characteristics of that data set, you can do it. And this is very, very relevant. Now, once you've defined your schema, this is your and the semantic types for the attributes in your schema. Now, the next piece that Mockaroo does is you can go ahead and just download the data set, or you can expose that as an API. So you can create, and I believe I have an account here, you can create APIs for this. So I went ahead and created a couple of APIs. And to create an API, you have to just select a specific data set that you've defined. So the data set will be the semantic type and the schema, and it exposes this as an API. So I'm just doing a new mock API here, and it's going to give me a bunch of users. So if I go ahead and click on this, there is no endpoint there. Let's take one that I did already before. Let's take this manufacturing one. So this one is going to look at my schema, which is called manufacturing plants that I defined. So if I go here, manufacturing plants is a schema that I created. Now the API is going to expose that schema. And if I went ahead and clicked on that, now I have this endpoint, and I'm going to change this here shortly, that every time you hit this endpoint, it's going to generate data for you in JSON. So if I hit this again, refresh, you see that has changed. If I hit it, it's changed. So you can just hit this endpoint as many times as you want. A million times if you want, you're going to get a million results. Of course, you're going to have to pay. All right. So this endpoint exists, but it exists outside of Snowflake. I want this in Snowflake. I want to have these results directly. I can just call and get the results directly from Snowflake. One of the challenges you might have is, well, what if we write a Python code that calls the API, and then the Python is going to take the API result and load it to Snowflake? This used to be what I would do, right? Until the StarSnow, that made me say, hey, why don't you just use this and call it directly from Snowflake? So welcome to StarSnow calling Mockaroo, which is what we have. So in this case, I'm just going to my DB here. I've set up StarSnow request, and from now I can just do a basic call to that manufacturing plant JSON, and my query key, basically everything after the question mark here, you can pass that as your query parameters. And from here, I'm just going to specify this key. All right, I'm going to make sure to delete this after this demo. So let's go ahead and run that. If I run this, so now it's gonna go out, it's gonna call StarSnow, and it's gonna bring the results for me. Actually, let's do something different. Let's do this, and let's not bring CD. Let's just bring that. So I want you guys to see the JSON that's actually coming back. All right, so here I'm just calling StarSnow, and I'm bringing back all the data as JSON, and so you can see the JSON payload coming back. But guess what? When it comes to JSON and Snowflake, it's like peanut butter and jelly, right? They go really well together for the folks in the US that understand that analogy. So now I have that JSON. You can now start flattening that out. So if I wanted to pull just the CD, I can go ahead and pull just CD. So imagine you want to generate Gemini. Gemini, I don't know what city that is. Maybe it's in, I know there's a town in Congo called Gemini. I don't know if that's the town. Let's take a look. I'm curious now. Let's take a look here. Gemini. Where is Gemini? Is it in Congo? Oh, Central Africa. Oh, wow. How could I not have known that? Gemini is a capital city of. It's a big city in Central Africa. Is it Central African Republic? Oh, Congo. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just getting myself confused here. I know Gemini is in Congo. For some reason, it threw me off. I thought it was in Central. Yeah, so Gemini is in Congo. And the reason why I know that, and not to go too sidetrack here, it's a good friend of mine is from Gemini, from Congo. So I know that. If we go back here, and this is real cities. So you can imagine if you're doing analysis and you're trying to understand cities, you're not just generating random strings. You're getting actual city countries, actual cities in countries. So really powerful. Let's try one more. Bokor. I don't know what Bokor is. uh Mironsi, I don't know where that is. Rongo, and you can keep going, right? And so one of the other things I can do is to say, well, we don't want to just get um, the results one time for one city. We want to get, maybe 100 of this, or 1,000 of this, or millions of this. So from here, we're just gonna run that through a generator. In Snowflake, you can do random generators. So let me bring this out before I actually run this. So here, you can run a statement like this. Snowflake, you can say select. You can do select from, and this would generate, I don't know if this will work, but um typically, well, this might not work. Okay, I get why it doesn't work. You need to specify the columns you're selecting from, but this from table generator gives us, it's going to iterate through this 10 times. That's basically what I'm trying to show here. So if I'm running the StarSnow and I'm just going 10 times, it should give me the results 10 times. That's what we're trying to accomplish. So if I run through that, it should give me 10 cities like that. Pretty cool if you ask me. Now, my data had a lot of different attributes that I could have used. So it's just as simple as taking this, going back up here into the JSON piece of it, and you can get your JSON 10 times and you can flatten that out. And this is 10 synthetic data that looks at real data with names that are really relevant, street addresses, phone numbers that look like phone numbers, part numbers that look like part numbers, employee counts that look relevant, dates that look like real dates, and you can use this for your analysis. And it's so easy. If you want a gazillion of this, just run it a gazillion times. Snowflake can handle it with the scale, and you can use this for your analytical purposes. We know, data science needs data, and teams usually struggle with masking data, with generating synthetic data for analysis. Sometimes they have to get depth data, and even with that, you're always worried about, am I using sensitive data here? But with something like Mockaroo, you can quickly get any data set you want, define the schema, create the API, and off you go, and you're running. So really, really powerful. Now, before we go, I'm gonna leave you with another demo that I planned, and this is a teaser. If something like this is interesting to you, because I'm hearing a lot about generative AI and such, which all rely on having good data. So let's bring this here. So there is this company called Cynthia. Let's copy this address so we can paste it here. Cynthia.net, and they help with generating synthetic data for images. And this data is pretty labeled, and it helps with images and videos. I plan to do something around this, and see how we can incorporate that into the demo. So stay tuned for that. I think this will be another fascinating one to help with this whole idea of synthetic data sets for on Snowflake for your data science projects. Of course, I'm going to leave this link in the description as well. All right, guys. So there you have it. Another video for us. Hopefully, this was helpful. Just some tips as you're working with the data platform, needing data. Hopefully, this gives you some guidance or some ideas on how to enable your team to generate data, do so in a very governed and secure fashion, making sure that you're not exposing any sensitive data. Hopefully this was helpful to you. As always, if you like this, don't hesitate to like it below. Share this with somebody that might get value out of it. You have been very awesome. I have been Furu, and I will see you in the next demo.